Boa tarde, pessoal. Sejam bem-vindos a essa atividade do workshop de Vídeo 360. Eu sou Diogo, trabalho no Ceweb e também no escritório da W3C. E também, como o Wagner disse de manhã, professor da PUC. Aqui tem o Newton, vou pedir para ele se apresentar.
Alô? Agora foi. Sou o Newton, vocês já ouviram que o Wagner também fez uma apresentação rápida daquela hora. Eu trabalho também no escritório do W3C aqui no Brasil.
I work for W3C office in Brazil and also in the Ceweb.br, which is our technology center. We are all supported by CGI.br. This workshop Video 360 is totally aligned to immersion, and then we can transcend the boundaries of the navigator. Today's workshop will first address some primary concepts, new approaches that were raised. Following that, we'll go into some technical details when you have a video camera on, what to do. And in our final slides, we will share with you how to include that in a website without necessarily upload that in from Facebook or YouTube. We will address some aspects raised by our morning keynote speakers, Glenda and Grace and Sharida. Grace, she shared all her experience with the project conducted in the Amazon region. And our idea was to identify presence, immersion, level of empathy, as well as the applied methodology. And with the Charid, we had taped several times Video 360 in Japan with him. And moreover, we have another video carried out in India, in Mumbai. That was an agreement with PUC University from the city of São Paulo, Mumbai University in India. We started with an experimental documentary that has just been published in our platform. In addition to that, we carried out two other activities. Two works were accepted to be presented on an international conference where we'll have a chance to introduce our scientific paper and a hands-on workshop. Ideally, we thought of starting with a hands-on workshop, but as we have a different group, we decided to start with some practical intervention. So let me start by asking you, who here has already done anything with Video 360, in addition to watch them? Have you done anything? Yes, in Flash. Anyone else? No. Well, that is it's just an introduction of some concepts. Evolution in technology and what to expect from the future. We have a boom of video with a 360 focus. Today, main blockbusters produce some type of content to 360 videos. Phil Mitchell, The Thing, which adds that experimental living. Transmedia, something which will complement to the script but not interfering. And most blockbusters today, they try to produce some type of content to virtual reality. And why not the whole film? That will be discussed in a while. number of different content being explored in the 360 video. That's not such a recent area, that just became more popular. And the idea to create the cinematic, that cinema experience throughout a virtual reality, that's quite new. That's not so new, I'm so sorry. As you can see, Walt Disney Circle Vision dating back from 1967. They had a circular arena where several cameras would project some type of images that will allow immersion. When we were kids, I guess that you had a chance to visit the planetariums, which were quite popular in the past, as well as caves, projection caves, especially at research centers and universities. When you have a four walls caves fully projected, you would get inside and have that feeling of immersion. That was rather expensive because of content production, several monitors and videos that should be related one to another. That was not cheap at all, and people could not afford it. However, nowadays we had empower content production. How can web encompass new type of contents? Right in the beginning, we started sharing texts. Even with social media, text would be essentially shared. Social media, right in the beginning, they had some restraints for photos upload. Maybe you could upload 2 pictures a week. However, today we have a great number of pictures that can be uploaded anytime. And now we are facing a second phase, which is video production. Media such as Instagram, Snapchat, they intertwine videos and photos, but they emphasize videos a bit more than photos. And we hope to see in the next few years users producing more content guided to enhance virtual reality. 360 videos in the past, they were not accessible, but little by little they become more accessible. And this is a roadmap of what to expect in the near future. Video 360. There are several terminologies applied, such as immersive, 360, cinematic, VR, omnidirectional video, different terminology to advocate and define what a 360 video is. In a nutshell, that is a camera that will shoot from different angles, 360. Surrounding different angles, heights, and that will depend on devices. More professional equipments, they will use more lenses, and there are those that are simpler, more affordable, with a more friendly user's interface. There are some 360 video cameras with a stereoscopy, 2 visions to create that 3D relevance as we have in the 3D movies. How popular is 360 videos? Before 2015, not much was said about 360 video. And if so, that was still in its first steps in some lab tests, researches, or at universities. Just after that, slowly, Video 360 became more popular, thanks to 2 players, Facebook and YouTube, as both supported Video 360 and how to consume such content. With 360 video, you cannot broadcast this type of content throughout the traditional broadcast media, as our TV screen is playing And YouTube and Facebook, they created a mechanism which allows to raise some type of interaction to navigate within immersion contents throughout the so-called magic window. Your cell phone become a magic window. You can move both sides and you can start navigating throughout the video. Everything started back in the years 15 and 16. There was a project carried out by New York Times in partnership with Samsung company where they were generating 360 contents every single day. They would create contents and different medias would broadcast them for consumers' use. YouTube, Facebook, two very important players, allowing that throughout your own magic window, there is your cell phone, you just move and you can navigate in the video, in the screen, and also if you are navigating from your notebook, you just use browser's navigator. Such a support was created in 2015. However, content was restricted at some producers' hands, a small share of producers, I should say. They had devices and cameras to generate such content. Users were empowered to consume that content, but yet they were not able to produce that content as video cameras were not affordable. Later on, two main cameras were launched, Ricoh brands, which released a 360 video camera, and following Ricoh, Samsung also released a 360 camera with a much more affordable price. Right in the beginning, a camera like that would cost 2,500 reals, Brazilian currency, something around $400. That's not so cheap, but at least it became more affordable if you compare to some other cameras which may cost up to 60,000 American dollars. Those of you who were here during Professor Sharid's talk, you had a chance to hear about project conducted during the Tokyo's marathon. And the camera that one of the runners was carrying over his helmet was a Ricoh camera. At that time, Ricoh Theta would give support just to full HD, whereas Samsung 4K. All technical issues, resolution, images, and so on, Newton will be able to go into details about that in a while. There are different sort of cameras. For instance, this is the Facebook camera, Surround 360. That's a quite interesting one. It's totally open service. I mean, the whole project is available at the GitHub. And here there are several others that will gather image with the software available. That's open source. But to build that up, you will spend a reasonable amount of money, something around $15,000, as components are quite expensive. But as the name says, that is a full open project or services. It's possible to create a feasible alternative to that one from an economic standpoint, I mean. This is another camera, Nokia, that's quite advanced, and this is the camera that was used during the Greenpeace project but that's very expensive. Between 40 to 60,000 US. It shoots in 3D, higher number of lenses, allowing better image quality, and stitches done automatically by the camera. When camera generates several screens and a software will stitch it literally. When they edit images, they stitch one to another to create this 360 video. Samsung has 2 lenses, whereas this one has a greater number of lenses, allowing higher quality and higher price, of course. And from a conceptual perspective, 360 is not a simple concept, as it will bring several ruptures to the movie industry. A 360 camera breaks the fourth wall. Those of you who had studied social communication have heard about breaking fourth wall. That has been taken from theaters, from places where we have a stage and audience represents the fourth wall, which is invisible to us. Let's say that we are here up on a stage, and from the edge of the stage on, we have all production, directors, lighting, everyone is hiding behind this fourth wall. Even in the cinema jargons, there is a resource known as the breakage of fourth wall. House of Cards, they say that a lot when Frank the Rude is interacting and suddenly he looks at the camera and talks to you. This is what we call a movie language and is known as breaking fourth wall, as if they would step out of the stage and they would talk directly to you as an audience. And what's the relation to 360 video? It means that if I shoot 360, I no longer have that fourth wall. In a 360 video, everything becomes seen. And how can I shoot a film, a video, if I have just scenes? This is the main obstacle that we face when putting together a 360 video. We go from an idea of frames to an idea of worlds. Here, the storyboard from Martin Scorsese for his film. I describe scene by scene in a storyboard, but here it's kind of flat. Position, angle, framing, drama. And that's known as director's eyes, or director's look, maybe better saying. And how to create a storyboard to a virtual reality if they can choose where to look to. This is what we consider, such as engagement. You start, you fall down, and then you go up again. Here we are thinking about cinema, what to do to have that storyboard if I'm just collecting everything. The scene of a punch will not happen. Consumers, they might be looking behind and they see a different scene. What to do to create that? There is no definition yet, but several will communicate one to another to consider new ways to create a storyboard to 360 videos. One different approach, and my favorite one, is to consider roads instead of screens. In the traditional storyboard, I have my frames. Here in a virtual reality, we think about different roads. What's that? User-centered, and then I consider all the narrative that will happen in that environment where user is in. I will consider narrative in small roads instead of a specific frame. In the beginning, they want to explore as much as possible 360 videos. And people would get totally lost. It was very difficult to follow everything or to guide users' attention. They are free to choose, and this is what makes so attractive that immersive experience, to allow power to our users. But we also have to guide their experience so they do not lose any meaningful elements in that narrative. And we do that considering best practices to consider a script. I no longer think about frames, but rather storyboards, think on different worlds. Second, I do not have to explore all 360. First, this is not comfortable at all. You cannot move here to have that complete experience. What's the best range? (240 degrees) to get a peripheral vision of users, to have a better spatial understanding, and to let all this behind part as a curiosity, which will not impact directly the narrative. That is a curiosity. And you have to There are some other interesting aspects, especially for those that work with video. We have to put objects very close to users. That is responsible for dizziness, you get annoyed. That's the minimum that you can have in terms of distance. Otherwise, it will cause some level of uncomfortable. So we have to think about that. Vincent here, McCurley, puts users in the middle. where I create different worlds. Here a storyboard based on the concept of worlds. He was one of the first ones to think about the small world. Andrew Leach drinks from the previous source and considers new ways. They keep the idea of small worlds, and for the same scene, for the same narrative, they have three main examples: the small world, frontal image, and back image. With that, we create a much more interesting script. On the first rectangle, we have a scene facing users. Different ways to consider it for virtual reality. We created an experimental document to test and explore all possibilities of 360 video and how can that help in empathy and sense of presence. That started thanks to a partnership with Mumbai University, Pune University, and Web Center of Technology. We went to India. We started producing some materials. Dobgat is a region in the center of Mumbai. Where there are 700 families living around, and their main role is to wash clothes all day long, as if each family had a small poor house surrounded by walls. Families, they live in these shanty towns, and in front of each one of those small houses, they have a water basin where they wash their clothes and garments from important brands. They are taken to this place to be washed before they are sold at department stores. And our goal was to share the reality that this society lives and the role that they perform and how they live.
And so we conceived it based on what Bill Nichols considered as his narration. He's one of the main theory writers on these documents. And he says that we look inside life as it is being lived. The social actors interact with one another. And so it is a type of documentary which is minimally invasive. I'm not going to have any interviews. I'm not going to have narrations. I am not going to have any specific interference of the production on the area, but it must be minimally invasive so that people can see that there's something going on there, and so that they act as if there were no invasion. In Bill Nichols' book, he says that this kind of documentary happens when the cameras become smaller and smaller, because this has led to some kind of inhibition for the population to be recorded, because they felt that they didn't have any object outside of reality. And so we thought, okay, with the 360 camera and with this perspective, I think that it may incentive this type of documentary quite a lot. And so this is what we did. and we considered where we were going to record from. But everything is very organic. The scenes are constructed in a very organic manner. We did not train our society. We did not ask anybody to do anything. And we wanted to display, as Bill Nichols mentioned, life as it is being lived. And so we considered a strategy and an approach, actually, called leave the camera alone. So what do? We do. This is an actual picture taken in Tokyo. We would choose an area of interest, and then we would place the camera and leave. So we would leave the camera there, and after some time we would come and collect the camera, but we would collect the images in a very organic manner without any interference from them, and also without contaminating the different scenes. So we used this approach both for this project in India as well as different videos and documentaries that we had in Japan. We had different problems, and but fortunately we were in Japan and they did not take it away from us. But we had a problem, and somebody by accident touched the camera fell, broke, and in the middle of the project, Samsung did not provide any coverage where we were. It had been purchased in Europe. We were in Japan. They were not able to fix it, and so we had to buy other cameras to move on with the project. But this is a strategy that we adopted and that worked out. And so we used this approach. We placed the camera in different spots. We collected the images, and then we would go back and edit. With that, we guaranteed a minimum of interference in the scene, and also in the attitude of those who were there experiencing it. With that, we obtained very interesting scenes, actual scenes in Mumbai. We placed a camera in a very specific place. And here, this scene is very interesting because it displays two different and very interesting aspects of the development of a new technology, and the 360 as capturing the essence of life as it is lived. I put the camera there and I left. The images were collected. But there was bamboos sustaining the hanger where this Indian lady was going to put her clothing. So she started looking at the camera, taking into account this curiosity issue, and this is what we're trying to capture here. Now, thinking a little bit more about the production process, how do we work with a 360 video? First of all, you need a camera, which may be a low-cost camera with good quality. Samsung camera is very interesting for these first videos which are being done. So this same camera is used. The New York Times also uses it. And Fantastic, also the TV show, used this camera. And the 360 video shows exactly that. One of the cameras was a Samsung camera, but when they broadcast, they always edited and showed users an edition, and the users consumed it in a totally flat manner, edited from TV. And then always at the end of the report, they would say, okay, if you want to have a complete experience, you should use a tablet to access our website. Over there you can have the complete experience, showing the idea, this idea of magic indoor. So you have a camera with an accessible cost when compared to others, but it is a lot more accessible. So we have this 360 camera by Samsung, and you collect it. And then you have a process which is a little bit more troublesome, not in the sense for the user, but from a computational point of view. And with that, we blend the images. And how does this Samsung camera work? It has two lenses, and it captures one side as being 180 degrees and 180 degrees on the other side. And then it seems there's a specific procedure to do that. It is not as simple, but it demands a lot of computing capacity. And this is how the video comes out of the camera. It is a single file with an MPEG format, but it has like two videos inside it, one on one camera and the other one on the other camera. And here you can see the front and the back. They seem using this stitching software. The software can be used in the cell phone, which must be an iOS from 6 on, and it may also be used for Windows. In Windows, you can use the software for the stitching, and this is done automatically. You upload it, and it starts stitching to generate a single image, which is called an rectangular image. It is a 360 image, but it's open as if it were a map, a world map. It is round, but it comes up in a rectangular shape. Here we have the original image. It is a video with two images inside. And here we have a video with the stitching in 360. And then we have the Samsung software, Action Director, and we also have other softwares. We have some algorithms with different universities, and they develop specific algorithm. You have other options. You buy a kit. You can print in 3D. You have different GoPro cameras, and each one of them will record from one angle, and then you use another one, and then you stitch everything using these 4 cameras or the 6 cameras. It all depends on the setup you're using. In July, I was at a 3E event. 2 papers were approved for presentation in the conference. They were from Korean universities developing new algorithm. This has been calling a lot of attention. And so I captured the image based on this previously considered preparation. I stitched the images, and with these low-cost cameras, you have to use specific software. In more professional cameras, they stitch in the camera itself, and as they collect, they stitch the images, which is the case of Nokia. And then after I stitch the images with this rectangular image, as you can see there, I can work with the addition, and you can do whatever you want to. We have some good practices in terms of addition to cause less discomfort, and Newton is going to talk about that. With the addition, you can use any software, and in this case, we do whatever has to be done, and then we export the video. And then you capture the image, you stitch, and it is displayed in 360 degrees. If you open this in a traditional video editor, and then you export, what happens? Well, you're going to use a part of the video. You can do it in YouTube or Facebook, and the image will be flat. Metadata was lost, and therefore it's important to use the software called Special Media Metadata Injector. This was developed by Google. You open it, you open the file, you use metadata, and then you can upload it in the platforms, and it's going to recognize this video as a 360 video. So you have the 360 videos, and if you edit it in traditional software and you export it, it's not going to be exported with the right format, and when you upload them in the platforms, it will be flat, which isn't nice. We have this toolbox called Skybox. It used to be a series of plugins providing support to 360 videos, so you would be able to use the legends and edit it in a more interesting manner. They had different very nice plugins, and recently it was bought by Adobe. And possibly in the next editions of Premiere, this is going to be embedded in the software itself. And now Newton is going to talk a little bit about the best practices and show the videos we have recorded and the experiences we've had. We usually say that when we use a 360 video, we can transform this narrative into something very special. You're all going to interpret in a different way, but we're all looking at the same scene. We can all understand things in a different way or consume things in a different way. Sometimes I'm more interested in a content that is being displayed here and another one there. But for us to work like this and to create better experiences, it's important for us to follow some good practices. We had an experimentation process. We placed the camera in a very famous crossroads in Japan. And then we realized that the lens was damaged. These are things that we learned with our practice. And so let's see these best practices which we learned from experience. This is when we have a 360 video that we intend to place in the web, and this is a video for marketing. It is more impacting to call attention to a story, which is the case of the Greenpeace project. So we have some good practices to be followed. I'm not going to deal with objects that are very close to those who are consuming content, because that's going to affect our experience. It's important to have this in mind. The duration of the scenes, 360 videos with longer scenes. Well, this is often used in YouTube. You have to avoid this in 360 videos. If you cut the scenes very quickly and sequentially, this is going to cause what we call spatial disorientation. They're going to be lost. They will not know where they are. When you use a 360 video, especially if you're using a headset, you really immerse. And if you change things all the time, or if you change the scenes all the time, people will not be comfortable. And this leads to another best practice, the transition between these scenes. And if I really want to cause this disorientation, or the HDMD, which Diego talked about, or be it something that I'm going to adapt to my cell phone, or the glasses, the Swift glasses, HTC Vive, whatever, if I am consuming content in HDMD, I will no longer have the jump cut. I must be very quick, but I will use a fade-in, fade-out effect between one scene and the other. This will help us create a different moment in this narration and transport the user into another moment of the process. So it's very important for us to pay attention to these transitions. Another one we have here is that we're recording, and we got a DJI, which has a gimbal to establish images. There's a lot of difference when we record a scene with a lot of movement, with a lot of action. So if you're recording in action, that also leads to discomfort for those who are watching, and therefore the experience may not be as pleasant. If you're recording something in 360, if you can use a tripod, that is a very good idea. It will provide better images, or you can also use image stabilization, gimbals. In the case of the marathon, they used an image stabilizer. Otherwise, that would keep on jumping, and those who were going to consume it would lose this opportunity, and things would be very complicated. So if you want to move the camera, they recommend the use of a slider. And then we got a monopod, placed it above a moving train in India, and recorded it. And then we gave this scene to be tried in HDMD, and then people watched for a while and removed it immediately after. We wanted to validate the different hypotheses. One of the videos, the one from India, starts the recording. There is some interruption, and you will see that the visualization is not as good when we have an abrupt movement. And another best practice that we adopted has to do with the quality of the image. I don't know if any of you have ever used a 360 video. There is one available in Facebook, and the quality seems to be not as good. When you blend different images in practice, you have a lower quality as a result. And whenever you consume content, you only consume part of it. So as opposed to conventional TV, where the resolution is 4K, but when we talk about 360, we say that Samsung or it has 4K and it has the image of the full lens. So it's not 4K as you do it, and therefore you're losing quality with that. So the minimum we recommend for recording would be to use a Samsung camera, which is not as expensive, and it can record with a 4K quality. And we also have some other problems, like how can we reproduce that? So I record my content in 4K. I'm going to use the camera, and we can produce in HDMD in a headset. I can do it in my cell phone, creating a magic window, or even in my desktop, where I'm going to click and drag. So I have a point of interest here, another one there. So I drag and I adjust it to my vision field. Today we have YouTube available. I can use it, and we already have a lot of 360 videos in YouTube. There are other video platforms that accept it. Others will, but will decrease quality. But what if we want to consume it in the website? Well, have a company, I can do that. Or in our case, we are releasing the Web 360 channel. We can place the video there without having to use YouTube or Facebook. We had to adapt some tools so that we could consume this content directly on our web page. But then a problem comes up. Has any of you had an experience where you clicked to watch a video and it takes too long to start playing? A video file, especially in a 360 video, in a simple file of 2 or 3 minutes, it will reach 3 mega. It will be gigantic. And so if I place this video directly for consumption, it will have a progressive download, meaning that I click it for download, but I have to wait for part of the content to be downloaded so that I can start watching it. And it will upload or download, a static article. If the video is HDMD, it will have to download the full file so that it can play the file. This is one of the challenges. We were trying to decide how we were going to deal with this challenge. Sometimes we have very large files to be consumed directly in the browser, and therefore we started using an adaptive bit rate technique, meaning that this rate is going to vary according to the quality of the connection, and therefore in the very beginning it will tell us whether the connection is is poor or not. And then when we have a better segment, we will adjust. Those of you who watch Netflix, it is the same thing. When you start playing Netflix, the quality is not so good, and then it improves. And why does that happen? Because it happens because it is adapting the number of bits. And sometimes the quality of the video goes down because somebody is using the internet. So it varies according to the band you're using or to the latency. This is a tutorial, a guide on how you can transform a static file and then work with the different qualities, segment them, so that we can have a 360 video player. We have a tutorial which is going to be made available in the 360 Lab website. And we're now going to play the video so that you can have an idea of how this experience is like. This is the portal we created. It is available in at Lab Web 360. And we're going to concentrate all of our work there with virtual reality and all of the technologies that help us create immersion experiences. And so if you start generating content. If you say that you are a journalist and you're doing that, how can you improve the content that you're generating? We're publishing some information with details on the projects, the videos that we have recorded, and therefore everything is being done for this project, including open source tools. We use them to use the player. I would like to use this opportunity to thank Thiago from the New York Times. He helped us develop this player. He also helped us implement. This player is available at the website, and it shows you how you can implement a page, be it a blog or an internet page. It's all going to be available at our 360 tool. We play it on the website. It's going to download content at a lower quality, which improves over time. This kind of video, or actually this video here, is 4.20 minutes long. This file had been edited, and it had 420 mega. We prepared a workflow to segment this file, and instead of offering the 420 megas, regardless of using the computer or whatever your connection is, we have different formats. We have a format for tablet, for your cell phone, for desktop, laptop. And all of these files together resulted in 1 gigabytes. That's all available at the server, and this kind of content is going to generate more band. It's going to require more storage. And we have to deal with all of these issues as well. LabWeb is on its way to implement this integration with WebVR. All of this content that is visualized in the browser, cell phone, is also going to work with HDMD. You're only going to have to use the VR mode, and you will be able to see it in a cell phone or in an HDMD. And I'm going to show you a video.
I guess we still have some time left for the video. I will play a video which we have available at our portal, and then I'd like to make some comments about the Greenpeace project.
Então, esse aqui é a cara lá do portal do Lab.
This is LabWeb 360 portal. We have just published it, so your opinion is really welcome to us. This is the first documentary Dobby got. How can a documentary generate such a level of empathy from consumers' perspective? Gallery, we have 2 videos so far. We will also publish a video from this conference. So let's play it and see. Diogo, he looks at the side because the policeman says we are not allowed to tape over there.
Aí alô? Essa cena foi gravada em cima de barraco.
That was shot in Obigat. Each small, tiny little place of those, they belong to a different family. Peripheral vision. They kept on working. Several screens, several scenes, to try to see how life is lived in that community in Mumbai. Why Mumbai? idea was raised by an edital conducted by the University of São Paulo. They want that some foreigners would go abroad to develop some specific work. And in partnership with the Mumbai University, with the University of Communication, Social Communication. Kids wearing uniforms, going to school. Maybe due to connection issues, I'm not able to upload the rest of the content. We were quite hungry, and then we went to a ramen restaurant where we showed the whole process. Just visit the website. Such an implemented player, if you access it, the video is available at several platforms. If you compare quality here, this is a much higher quality than Facebook. Facebook delivers a inferior quality, but we have a higher quality because we do not have to comply with the world's demand. Magic window. We are able to use the video as a whole, exploring and using your smartphone only. If you have any questions, feel free.
Boa tarde, eu sou o Fernando.
Good afternoon. I'm Fernando. I work as motion designer at Senac University. Do you have any way as how we can track part of the video, insert a text, a box? What do you mean exactly? To have some graphic design element as part of the video? Yes, maybe a title. Yes, yes. Well, that cannot be done from a trivial standpoint yet, but Microbox has several programs which will offer that support. And to answer your question, you have to do that in hands. Here you have a print screen. It starts with a certain level of depth. In Premiere, for instance, I have the normal title, flat, and once I inject it will create that. Some graphic design elements. Scarbox method, this is rather famous. Have I answered your question? Thank you. I have a technical doubt about sound, audio. Can this camera record the 360? Audio means a lot. If there is someone washing clothes, for instance, if there is no good audio, you look backwards, you look behind. So video is responsible for 50%. Can that camera record everything? Or that requires a pre-production? Binaural sound, spatial sound, cameras, they cannot face that they will capture 360 audio with no depth, flat sound. There are some other equipments that produce exactly the spatial sounds or the so-called binaural sounds. And people, experts in audio, they do that. But that requires a hard work when you edit different segments of audio. Players, they can support that. However, production is the main issue right now. There are some tools that can support it. And if you will have a more immersive experience, you can take different scenes from that documentary, and we produced at Unit. I don't know if you have heard about Unit. We created an immersive environment where users, they could navigate it and be part of that scene. They had those 360 degrees of freedom, free movement. They could swing from one scene to another, and we have optimized that, and we started from the very beginning thanks to unit support and binaural audio, which was not binaural as our camera could not support that, and our audio equipment was not good enough to capture that binaural sound. Hello, good afternoon. Audio was one of my concerns for storage purpose. How to store it in a pen drive, or what about autonomy? CD card, you put a CD card. That should be much higher. And that will be produced in accordance to your SD card capacity. We used a 64 gigabytes card. As that was just a prototype, and technology was very experimental as well, weird stuff happened. In the middle of Obigat in India, they trigger firmware update of Samsung Gear VR. We were connected in the cell phone with the interface. I had just a chip because I didn't have enough internet connection just to call for a Uber car. Second, as the whole band has been consumed, I don't know if they were not able to download the whole firmware. They tried to install it, didn't succeed, and the camera stopped working totally at all. Could not even turn on. Up to now, I cannot turn that camera on. We were there in India trying to produce content, so we visited several shops. No one had a camera like ours, but there was a second option, which was a Chinese camera that would work really bad. Everything happened. You just name it. It fell down several times. We had a firmware problem. In Japan, they hadn't heard about Samsung. How come? They do not call it Samsung, they call it Galaxy. It's funny because one camera comes with the Samsung brand, the other one Galaxy. Everything there manual. They do not use the Samsung brand. Maybe there is a cultural issue there, some economic conflicts. I cannot tell you exactly, but it's a piece of curiosity, isn't it? And we have learned a lot. That was an experimental technology. We have learned as much as we could. We broke cameras, lenses, and storage, which was another issue. So SD card with backup, be careful enough to do it. Simple camera, battery, you just charge it in a USB connection. Encoding or stitching of the video can be done directly in the cell phone. I read something about stitching on the cell phone. Quality was better than in Windows. I haven't tested it. We have taped several videos, and we needed a stitch of all videos. We had a raw video, but we had to stitch it, and that had to be done in the middle of the night. I let it running all night long. And we were in a capsule in Japan. It was really windy. Then it got so warm. We were sweating. We had to open all capsules because we were getting burnt there. And that's the beauty of an experiment. You have to learn by your errors, try and errors. And, the idea to be here today is to help you and share first steps. That same Gear 360 Samsung camera it stays open longer. Maybe it would close every 6 to 7 minutes, and Samsung had that time slot a bit longer. What about previous experiences by Samsung? Can't they add anything else to that? Well, I tried to talk to technical support. I explained what happened, but they didn't help me much. And Samsung does not offer any live support, just at the country of origin. As I had bought my camera in Spain, just maybe in Spain I would be able to get some kind of help. Samsung has some partnership with some communication channels. Reports or journalists, they generate content to be used in the 360 video, and that is worked as a marketing tool to the brand. Well, things are developing and is getting into movies, into the movie industry and others. I am Tiago from Senac. You have mentioned about implementations of HTML5, tag video. What about formats? Do I have to generate multiple versions, or just one single video format is more than enough nowadays? What about MPEG? This is the format generated by the camera, but what about tag video and compatibility? For MPEG, we use video and audio ICC. So far, tests, navigators, they allow us a good support. There is the so-called media source extension. That feature allows more complex tasks. Media source extension. But as to format, there was no problem or whatsoever. Last year, W3C, not the Brazilian office, but the corporation, the global office, they put together a workshop with several activities related to Video 360. If you are watching a 360 video, you do not see that as a whole, but that renders all content. So you are in a region, let's say, and then it renders all video, and there is a band consumption, wide band consumption. So during the workshop, they want to understand how can HTML5 support Video 360 and how to render the content which has a max quality, a high resolution, and all the rest with a lower resolution. And once that flows in the scene, I little by little render scenes with a higher resolution level. That is still a gap to be filled, and our office is working hard to solve that problem. Are there any other questions, concerns? What about our time? I guess our time is up, isn't it? We have what? He says 10 minutes. We were partners at Grace's project, and we wanted to understand how empathic that video was, how it would raise that sense of presence, and to be able to measure that effectively from an academic approach. Two methodologies were applied, one more quantitative, followed by a ground theory where we quantify them based on a server. People would make their comments. We got very interesting answers, a total of almost 350 altogether. And I have to thank those ladies that helped us to register all of them. They are university students. We have to understand and explore technology as a communication means. We have a paper to be soon presented in Canada, and the idea is to add a new approach to storytelling, as Grace told us this morning. We have to consider breaking the fourth wall, how to include staff in that project or in that scene that you are shooting. This is a pathway that can help us to raise empathy, to develop some feelings that will trigger to different types of narratives. We are right now under our second phase of the project, putting together some scientific papers that will soon be published. Well, as there are no more questions, we would like to thank you so much and visit our website. It's .br, not .com, /360. You'll be able to watch our experiments. And if you want to submit any ideas or questions, we are open to your comments. If you want to place a video, fine, just send us an email. And if you have any other additional ideas, projects, partnerships, just come and talk to us. That's it for now. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening and see you tomorrow.